Hello and welcome to the Real Influencers Project. I'm your host, Craig Reynolds, and today we have one of my favorite people in the entire world, Ms. Vicki Johnson. You have influenced me more than you possibly know, but when most people think about influencers this day, they're thinking about social media and the social media influencers that are selling, lifestyle changes and workouts, and you see someone that you follow that you think that you really like and you want to buy their shoes, their influence. However, I think that the people that you've grown up with, your friends, your neighbors, even your family, have a little bit more influence on you becoming who you are today. And for me, I would love to know how you got to where you are today, especially knowing where you grew up in a little teeny town outside of Raleigh, North Carolina. Is it called Zebulon or Zebulon? I don't even know how to pronounce it.
Zebulon. People in Raleigh don't even know that Zebulon exists. That's how small of a town it is. It's like 3,500 people. And I think since I left 20 some years ago, I think there's only been about 20 people that have moved into the place. So it's really a small town. And it was the most amazing childhood growing up. And I probably would have stayed there my whole life if it hadn't been for my dad's mom, my grandmother, who probably was one of the biggest influencers in my life when I was growing up, just because she was like, travel, see the world, travel, see the world. And she said, it's so important for girls, especially, to travel and see the world. And
Wow.
So she made me go to all these places when I was really young, and I wanted to stay there with my friends, but she just made me travel. And I remember specifically maybe when I was about 16 and she had taken me to Switzerland, and I was standing in the middle of the road and the road started to vibrate and it was just rumbling under my feet, and the sound got louder and louder and louder and louder. And I'm like, what is this? And down the road, this little windy road in the middle of Lucerne, Switzerland, Lamborghinis, Ferraris, all of these really exotic, expensive cars. And at that moment, I said, you know what? I want to do something with cars when I grow up. I want to be able to be around these cars. And I think that was really what pushed me to always love NASCAR and always want to end up doing something in NASCAR, something in auto racing, something in sports. It was really that little nugget, that little moment in my life. And I don't think I realized it until later, like what that moment meant to me. And it was, you know what? Zebulon's a great place to grow up. A lot of people are going to live here their whole lives. They're going to be the happiest people in the world. But I knew it wasn't going to be me. And that's what started my journey.
Well, and you went from Zebulon to UNC Chapel Hill. Was there any kind of an eye-opening experience there? Any kind of cultural shift or anything that was like, oh, you know what, I need to get to a bigger town? Because obviously you went from there to what, Miami, possibly?
I did. I went to Chapel Hill, and I think my moment when I was in Chapel Hill, listen, I came from a farming town. I mean, that's pretty much what everybody did. They went to high school. A lot of them went to Botex. They learned farming. They learned agriculture. And when I got to Chapel Hill, I realized how lost I was. I mean, I was not an academic. I thought I was. I thought when I went to high school, I was one of the smartest kids in my class. But when I got to Chapel Hill, I realized all these people had so many more life experiences than I did. Right. And I remember I struggled the entire time I was in school academically. I just was not prepared. Nothing against my teachers. They were just raising kids for a certain path in our town.
Gotcha.
And they weren't raising kids to go to, bigger universities and go to college and things like that. And so when I got there, I was lost. And I came home one day and I had studied and studied and studied. And I made a C on this exam. And I said to my dad, I don't know what I'm doing. I studied so much and I still made a C. And my dad said, what do you have to pass? And I said, well, you have to make a C to pass. And he goes, well, what are you worried about? Nobody's ever going to ask you your GPA. People want to hire people that are smart, but more importantly, are hardworking, that are really good people, that think outside the box. And he was like, nobody's ever going to ask you what your GPA is. And you know what? He was right. And I think big companies now are looking for people that kind of think outside the box and aren't necessarily just test takers. Because when life throws you a curve, when you can handle it when you're one of those people that thinks out of the box. And so I think that was kind of my moment in college, where then I just took a deep breath and I was like, you know what, I'm going to be a B or maybe a C student my whole time here at college. And you know what? Nobody has ever asked me.
I've never
I'm
asked
putting
you.
it out there right now.
Well, how did you get into being, this fabulous writer of shows, and equally as incredible on camera? I mean, whether you realize it or not, when we were hosting NASCAR Nation, you were tremendous in my growth there, and I greatly appreciate that. And I've told you before how much I will always appreciate that. But how did you get to that point?
Well, you know, it works both ways. And you said it at the beginning. It's like every person in your life influences you in some way. And you did that for me. I mean, I came in there with probably a little bit more experience than you because I had
A lot.
jumped from local media and had done other things. But every day was a learning day. And we would walk off the end of the set and I remember just kind of laughing. For me, I was in Miami and I went to pick up a second degree in journalism. And I knew I wanted to do something with writing. And they said, well, you have to take an internship. I went to Miami to CBS at Channel 4. And I said, is there anything I can work on? And they said, absolutely. You can go and be an entertainment show intern. And I thought, great, that's what I'm going to do. So I sat in the booth with these people and I learned the little nuggets of how you edit and how you tell stories, even with entertainment. And I did lots of different genres, but that's how I started entertainment. And then one day I was supposed to go with one of the reporters to cover this models that were playing a charity volleyball tournament, big Victoria's Secret models, real important, pretty people. And the reporter got stuck and couldn't make it. And it was a new camera person. And he said, I called the producers on the show and they said, you know what to do. Just stick the microphone in front of their face and ask them questions. Well, the camera guy didn't know any better. And I thought, you know what, this might be an opportunity. What is it? Luck is opportunity and preparation. And I felt like that was my moment. And I stuck my face in every shot to the point where they could not edit me out of the piece. And it turned out really well. And they said, hey, do you want to do this again? And that was my jump from behind the camera to in front of the camera. But I started behind the camera because I thought it was really important to learn the writing and to learn to edit and the little nuances. Yep. And then from there, I went to Los Angeles. But, Los Angeles, when I got there, I was not going to be on camera because you were blonde. You look like everybody else in the city. You have a Southern accent. You've got to lose the Southern accent. Nobody's going to hire you here. Even though Los Angeles is the biggest melting pot in the world, right? They wanted a Midwest accent. Wow. And so I started working behind the camera and I just couldn't get a break. I think because I kind of got in my head a little bit of nobody's going to hire me to do this. Nobody's going to hire me to do this. And I found out I was a really good writer. And I think in hindsight, even though I was kind of a little dejected that it kind of came easy in Miami and I was able to start a big broadcasting career in a big market, when I got there, I kind of got put in my place, which was probably a good thing. And then I got hired to write a show for this guy that some people have heard of. His name's Dick Clark.
Oh yeah, so and I've heard of him vaguely.
A little guy named Dick Clark, Bandstand. Yeah. And I met him one day and he said, oh, where are you from? I said, North Carolina. I've been working on trying to lose my accent. And he looked at me and he said, why? And I said, well, they want you to sound a certain way. And he goes, well, a blonde in California is 1 in a million, but a blonde with a Southern accent is a dime a dozen, I did that backwards. And he was like, right. You're a dime a dozen if you're a blonde in California, but you're 1 in a million if you are a blonde with an accent. So he said, don't ever lose it. And I was like, thank you very much.
What a fantastic influence that was right there.
Oh yeah, no, that's was
amazing.
The moment where, and since that moment when I stopped trying to fight it, because I found out when I would try to get into this normal accent, I would lose all my personality. And then I was able to go back to Fox Sports. I got a job in NASCAR. I met you. That was the greatest thing that happened on that show.
Hands down.
And then from there, I went back and now I'm doing a show for NBC. And hey, I've had a long career in television that I'm very proud of.
And rightfully so. It's fantastic. And like I said, coming from that little teeny tiny town, you've had the opportunity to be in so many amazing situations that it's fantastic. And I love to hear the story on how you got there.
Well, as you said, it's really a lot of people. I don't think there was one influence in my whole life. I think it was just so many people. I know some people have that one teacher. I had a great writing teacher, and I've tried to find her over the years who believed in me when I was in high school. And I kept thinking, I don't like writing. I don't like writing, but I think this lady knew that eventually I would be a writer on television. And that's probably where I've had more success as opposed to on front of the camera. But, you know, I've worked on Emmy nominated series. I've written for crime shows and Animal Planet and all of those. And when people say, oh, isn't it more fun to be in front of the camera? And I'm like, no, there's something fun about taking a story and the thread that weaving it together and then seeing the results. And I mean, yeah, it's fun when you can go on and do these kinds of things with real interesting people and fun things. But I think all of it together kind of makes it just so much better.
I've watched you write them before, and I feel like there's a sense of creative freedom that you have when you're doing that. I think we wrote the Miami show that we did for NASCAR Nation. We sat at breakfast and just, okay, we should say this here, here, here. That was such an eye-opening experience for me. That I thought, oh my gosh, that was fantastic, because then we get to guide how we're getting through everything.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's the same as even a kid's book. I mean, you know, you have a son and you read to him, and every story has a beginning, a middle, and an end. And that's really every story that you'll ever write. Now, you can kind of start it in creative ways and end it, or, you know, there's always going to be twists and turns and red herrings and all those things in whatever story you do. But I remember that. I remember sitting down. We were lucky because our natural conversations, you could videotape anytime and put us on camera. And that was really who we were. And we wanted to make sure that we were the same people on camera that we were off camera.
Yes.
But you also were on me with a radio show that I did. And that was a really early morning radio show. And we never had to prep because we talked all the time off camera. And it was a NASCAR radio show. Yeah. And that was our life, our dialogue all the time was exactly who we were. So I would pick up the phone and call you, or you were guest co-host with me. Yeah. And we never prepped for anything. And that's a long thing to do as radio. We had 9 minutes to fill. And when I was by myself, it was always like, this is the longest 9 minutes of my life. But when we were doing it together, it was always, wow, wait a minute, where'd the time go? We didn't finish.
We're running out of time. You guys got to hurry up, wrap it up, right? That's what they were saying. Yeah. That was so much. Well, it was like when we did the live MC gigs for Yellow Transportation.
That's seamless, right.
The whole time. Yes. Like, that was so much fun to play off of you on everything that we did there.
And we would take a little nugget of a script, and that was all we needed. We would say, this is where we're going to start. Let's just chat in the middle.
Yes.
And then we'll just finish somehow. And we always had the best time. I hope everybody enjoyed it as much as we did.
I hope so. But, you know, we never got any complaints, so I guess they did. Well, Vicki, I'm going to wrap this up right now. I appreciate you, again, more than you will possibly ever know. Thank you for your time today. I'm sure there's going to be some people out there that are like, you know what? I need to go do that as well. And you could be their influencer as well. So thank you.
Oh, you're a big influence on me. And I know a lot of other people too.
Well, thank you. I'll talk to you soon. See you.